Here's what I know. In order to get to the result, you have to fail. That's the crazy thing that I can say out loud. There has to be failure in order to get to that result. Whether there's confusion along the way, all these things that we as human beings or perfectionists or high achievers deem as failure, right? Something has to happen in order to get to the result. There is no way you're going to get to the result in pure perfection and seamlessness. That is not how life works.
Welcome to Sincerely Future You, a podcast that helps ambitious women like you make decisions today with the future you in mind. Today's episode is going to be a little different. You're going to actually get a behind the scenes peek into half of a one-on-one session with one of my clients. We've done this before, and it's been one of your guys' favorite episodes. You tell me all of the time that you love episode, I believe it's episode 18. We'll link it in the show notes with my client, Amanda. And this was a real life session, coaching session, one-on-one coaching session that I pressed record on because I just knew it was going to be something we were going to want to reflect on, and capturing that moment in time and her thoughts and her energy when she was in the process of going through her goal collection and her failure collection, and then give you guys the insights afterwards. So today I am sharing with you a session that I knew instinctively I also had to press record on halfway through. This is a sneak peek into a session with my client, Grace, Lee-Toumandidis. And Grace is a bona fide badass chick, and she's got the receipts to back it. She is an Emmy Award-winning executive producer who's worked on hit Zeitgeist series for Netflix, Magnolia Network, and Bravo, including shows like Sparking Joy, Below Deck, and Homework. Have you heard of some of those? I think you've either been living under a rock or you know this world of Hollywood. I personally always joke about how if it weren't for her, I might not have the drawers in my son and daughter's room. I organized my drawers a certain way because of this show, Sparking Joy, that she was able to help produce and bring to life outside of the book that was written. But she's also a human being. And when we started working together, she was feeling extremely burnt out. She had gotten so sucked into the hustle of Hollywood that she really lost sight of her self-worth and what daily decisions were in her control. And I know that her story is not that unique. I know that what she was saying to me is something that you guys can relate to. In this session, she basically just started to list all of the ways that she had applied the self-coaching model that I taught her to her life. I got chills re-listening to this, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the areas that coaching can spill into your big, fat, juicy life and your business when you get intentional. We've edited out some specific names for NDA reasons, but thank you so much to Grace for getting vulnerable and allowing us to share this on the show, because on this show, we believe that the human experience and that success specifically looks like standing on a mountains of all of the failures that you've collected. It's raw and real and sometimes a bit extra, and ultimately reminds us life is not supposed to look like an Instagram filter. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
So when I am managing somebody who is a creative, who, may not have the ability to stop down and say, let me think about it, and they need to talk the process out loud, through the work that we've done, I'm able to work the model through her process as well, which sounds insane, right? Understanding she is just working it out. So let me not take the first thing she says at face value. Let her have her process, and let me deduce at the end what it is that we got out of it. And so the ability to say, okay, in review, here are our next steps. Do you want to wait a beat to make this call? I'm going to let you think about this. And if it's okay with you, we're going to make the call on shooting tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Love it. Also, I'm just really saying what you said that is so mind blowing. And I love this. Really, there's always two models running at the same time. There's your model, which is your thoughts about the experience. And then there's her model. And then there's also the model that's overarching, which is like the experience of all of it. Like it's your thoughts while you're receiving and while you're engaging with her and while you're communicating with her. And then afterwards, you have a whole separate model where you can like really pause and look at it and decide what you want to think about the whole thing.
There was a period when in the middle of our sessions when, you know, I was stunted and I couldn't even articulate because my brain was literally short circuiting and rewiring. And so now I see it happening on so many, I feel it. I can feel it in my brain just operating on multiple facets of exactly what you said. I'm running her model, but I'm also running my model and the overarching model. And it's power because I can see what the solution is before everyone else can see it, but I can also give space for all of those people to come to that solution. So the amazing thing that's happening right now is that whereas in the past, I would be so offended by this person doesn't think I'm great at my job because I didn't come up with this solution, they're looking at me like I'm a lesser EP and I don't belong here. All of those thoughts are non-existent. They no longer exist because I'm able to do all these exercises in my head and get to this point of this is the solution and that's all that matters, like ultimately, and to be able to clearly see that because I'm not operating on any other level than what is the result we're trying to get to.
Yeah, reverse engineering the result. Like everything was very high. Your emotions were run high in all of your engagements with when you were managing up, when you were managing down, when you were managing sideways, because most of it was from the goal of everybody understanding that why you were doing what you were doing, like understanding you. Like there was no room for other people to be confused about what happened. Now you're like, there's so much room. People can be confused about who came up with this idea. People can be confused about how we're going to do this. People can be confused about my role and their role in helping me do my own job, right? Like you've pointed out even just today, like 10 different ways in which other people were confused over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Including heads of entire companies.
Yeah.
And you're able to be that person that just goes in and says, okay, we need to have you prompt a meeting between all of us so that we can just quicker get to this result amongst creatives that are really struggling to see the solution.
Exactly. It's really empowering. And the crazy thing is I sleep so much better at night. So yeah, right now it's like, sure, I was late by 4 minutes because I was on another call and whatnot, but it doesn't mean my scheduling is not great. Like all these baseline things are there. My scheduling is great. I went to work out for 3 hours last night, which is amazing. And then I slept 10 hours and I'm high functioning at the top of the day.
Wait, what? You worked out for 3 hours and slept 10 hours in one 24-hour period?
Yes, because I am no longer valuing the work that I do with time either. That has really clicked as well, right? Because I'm not worried about what everyone else thinks of me, because I'm not worried about everyone else being confused, because it is the recognition that everyone just needs space to have their process. That's the number one thing, and it has nothing to do with me, right? I'm able to operate and get everything done sometimes in 3 hours. It literally is the most insane thing to wake up and be this person every day.
It's so surreal sometimes, even for me, and I've been doing this for years, to like have the first month of coaching with one version of a person, and then to come to month 6 of coaching and literally watch the things that you would argue, and not just you, but like all of my clients in that first month is like, no, you don't understand my industry. Like you need to be burnt out. That's just like part of the game. Like there's no time for self-care. You need to be responding to messages whenever they come in. Yeah. And now what you're saying is like, there's plenty of time, essentially.
There's plenty of time. So I remember telling you specifically, I think week 1, probably, I was like, nope, you don't get it. This is just how it is.
Yeah.
And in this strange way, I still understand how certain people operate in that model and how high level producers operate that way, but it doesn't mean that my model needs to reflect that. I can have my own model. And it's really insane that I operate now at this place of, it feels very much like I'm Oz, even in my own brain and in the circumstance where I understand what the result is so far in advance that I can let things break.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Because truthfully, when you're focused on a result, I was just talking to another one of my clients about this as well. And she was talking about what her A line would be, what her actions would be this month to create this result. And I was like, I just feel like this action plan that you created for yourself is not rooted in belief that it's already done. Because when you believe that the result is inevitable, there's no rush, A, and B, like there's room for all sorts of failure. There's no attachment to any one way of it getting done or what role you have in getting it done, because you're not entitled to know the how until after you arrive at the result.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to like root all of your action plan, everything that's on your calendar needs to be rooted in belief that like, oh, there's plenty of time and we're going to get to the result.
Yes. So all of those things I fundamentally believe in. I can say that today. There are days where, yes, I may work a 12-hour day in order to have the 3-hour day tomorrow, but it doesn't mean that I need to put in 18 hours a day to be great at my job. So that is very clear.
I feel like people are going to hear you say that, like, what? She worked 18 hours a day? And like, I just want to say that that was your life for a while. You were working 18-hour days like regularly, and just even still saying that it wasn't enough, like that you had the deep belief that it wasn't enough.
Yeah, it's part of it is really just waking up and realizing and starting the day saying, I know what I'm doing. I'm great at my job and no one else can tell me what to do, and to just sort of like submit to that idea. Right. And believing it. It took a while. Obviously, the first
it didn't take you that long. Like, honestly, a couple of months in the scheme of your whole life. Like,
right.
That's pretty amazing to rewire that thought from how extremely opposite your thinking was previously. You were doing this work for yourself.
It's the very reason why, again, like giving the space for failure and not being afraid of failure. Because here's what I know. In order to get to the result, you have to fail. That's the crazy thing that I can say out loud. There has to be failure in order to get to that result. Whether there's confusion along the way, all these things that we as human beings or perfectionists or high achievers deem as failure, right? Something has to happen in order to get to the result. There is no way you're going to get to the result in pure perfection and seamlessness. That is not how life works, right? And so having a meeting about a process that was unfortunate, that we wasted time, I'm able to then rebut that and say, actually, it was a great exercise because it enabled us to understand that we can't do it on our own. And we weren't raising a red flag without the facts and the evidence.
Honestly, you're giving a masterclass in this session right now on how to save time by being imperfect. And I know that one of your biggest hangups in our first couple of months of working together was just about this idea of like, as an identity, you really did feel like you were praised and you strived for perfection. And that now what you're saying is that like the goal is to get quicker to the imperfections so that you can see them
Yeah. And so the only thing I regret that I wasn't able to say specifically is, yeah, we may have wasted 4 days, but didn't we gain 30 days by going through this process and making the error? So I'm going to do more of that moving forward, but I'm even in awe of myself and wonderment because I don't understand whose brain I have right now. Because for 39 years, I operated a certain way. And so it really has, the crazy thing that has happened to me in the last 6 weeks is that all of this is really fun. I find so much joy in getting to the result and all the imperfections because none of those things bother me.
Yeah.
I have found more joy in what I do.
You become unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
And really the definition of that is someone who is willing to feel whatever it takes to get a result. And when you go through that process over and over again, and what I mean when I say like willing to feel is like, you're willing to feel failure, you're willing to feel imperfect, you're willing to feel misunderstood. Like that's what it is to embody the feeling of other people being wrong about you or being confused, right? You're willing to feel wrong. You're willing to feel uncredited. You're willing to feel all of those emotions that previously were so scary to you and so traumatic. You would even just, I'm pretty sure you even would use those words like triggering, traumatic. Like you really, really put up a huge barrier in your life between ever feeling those. And what I say is like, no, let's lean into it. Just feel all of them. And then once you do, you're not scared of anything. And that is such a time saver because then you're like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Oh, I feel triggered. I feel embarrassed. I feel unqualified. And you feel that feeling. And then you're like, okay, now what?
We went through this on the very first session or the second session we had is what is the worst case scenario? We went all the way to I could be fired.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the wonderful thing about that is if that were to ever happen, then great. It's still a plus for my life. And knowing that, that thought does not even occur. Whereas in the past, it occurred once a day.
Yes. You're like, okay, by avoiding, we think it's counterintuitive because we think by avoiding thinking about it or feeling it, we are protecting ourselves. But actually, you were feeling that negative emotion in advance all of the time. It consumed you, the worry and the fear of what might be. And then now you've actually like felt what it's felt like to be reprimanded, misunderstood, like all of these things by superiors, by colleagues, by people with like some reps and people who are important in your industry. And now you're really like garnering some momentum and respect amongst them because they're like, oh, she rolls with the punches. That's the type of person I want to work with. And probably then what happens when you don't focus so much on pointing out why other people were confused and where they were wrong is that they figure it out themselves that they were wrong or confused. Then they are 10 times more impressed with how you handled them being wrong and confused and didn't throw it in their face.
Exactly.
So rare to come across a person who's that mature and emotionally adult, right?
Yeah. In the past, like just to, off of what you're saying, whatever I was operating off of, because it was a multitude of things, and that resulted in me in that perfectionism, in the refusal of sitting in my own discomfort of not being perfect, but ultimately over fear of getting fired. And then that that defining my worth, all that out the window. I used to literally tell people, I said this to you. What was the problem with that when I said it? Right? Because it was all about me. I was like, didn't I just say that? Yeah. Didn't I pitch that? And at the end of the day, like now I'm sort of in the place where it doesn't matter because ultimately I still know what the result is. So whether I'm planting seeds, whether I get shut down, whether everyone else has thought errors, like it holds no bearing on what I fundamentally understand needs to happen. And so it literally just rolls off my shoulder.
And then by proxy, your self-concept does evolve and grow because you're not so worried about having this image or self-concept that your new self-concept is just like, I'm someone who gets results.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that deep belief in believing in yourself that you're just someone who gets results, not, oh, I'm someone who is revered in the industry for X or blah, blah, blah. Like all of those other things naturally happen when you believe in your ability to get results no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you believe in your emotional resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that those two things have finally just happened, and it really helps to navigate working relationships. I find it just rippling throughout my entire life, not just in the workplace, not just in this room.
Tell me
right?
more.
I think that I haven't actually articulated this out loud, but I find myself coming from a place of peace because I know what the result is. Therefore, back producing that, you understand what you can control and what you can't. And so you're clear on the action you have to take. And so even in my own marriage and relationship, whereas in the past, just like with work, I would try to control every step to get to the result. It just allows me to function in a more, it's like I have more patience than I do. It gives me an increased sense of peace. Like I'm functioning.
Because imagine, like, as human beings, we have enough to deal with our own thoughts and feelings and actions and results. Like, could fill our calendar times 10 with that shit. And then on top of it, most human beings try and solve for other people's thoughts and feelings and what they're doing and what they're creating. And when we let go of all of that, we understand that not only is it not our job, but it's also not fucking possible to control other people's models.
Right.
So it's like decluttering. It's like the friggin' show that you worked on, the life-changing magic of tidying up your brain.
Yes, that's exactly right. It ultimately circles back to, right, but this is having, really having the model and the circumstance, the thought, the actors, the actions, and circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result. When that is completely ingrained in your brain and it's not even a thought, like I don't actually have to go, what is the circumstance? What is the thought? I don't actually have to go step by step because it's already happening.
Yes. You start to work the model from like kind of wherever you're at, whatever you notice is happening.
Exactly. That is what's starting to happen, where I don't have to go here are the facts because I know what the facts are. I can sort of stop myself in the middle of it, understanding like what it is I'm struggling with, right? And then I don't act on it the way I used to, which is amazing. But circling back to my marriage, I'm able to give my husband the space he needs to.
Yeah, how lovely.
Yeah. And so as a result, my environment is just peaceful all around. Because I was thinking about this a lot. What is something you said that resonated, because I deal well with very simple instruction in some ways, but the idea of just prioritizing the fun and prioritizing my life over the other thing. So that's how I've scheduled. And I look at my work in that way too. I'm not scheduling my life around, I'm getting emotional.
I'm getting emotional listening to you.
I'm getting emotional. You've changed my life in a huge way. I just want to start there. Because and it's so crazy for me because I never operated this way. Like I scheduled my life around work. Now I'm scheduling work around my life. That doesn't change the demanding nature of what I do, the high profile project that I'm on.
Yeah, you still get to be a baller.
Yeah, but in my model and in my brain. No one else knows. No one else can tell, but this is how I'm operating. I am scheduled work around my life.
Yeah.
So
You that people can tell, like the people that have been with you from like project to
yes,
project are obviously like your husband or like your friends that are like close circle to you. It's like, it's imperceivable exactly, like they probably can't pinpoint or put a finger on what exactly is different, because it's not the same
yeah,
thing as like a physical transformation when you lose weight, or like, oh,
yeah,
a milestone transformation where like, oh, I, had a baby, or I graduated and got my doctorate, or whatever it is. It is, though, a different kind of graduation to a version of you that you will never be able to go backwards from.
no, yeah. And I've definitely experienced it. Like the space that it used to hold where I used to work those 18 hours. Like sometimes there is a void that, or earlier on, there was like a little bit of a void because I was so used to it. So I found myself filling those hours with other things, whether it was oddly looking at Instagram, because I felt like, or shopping or whatever it was, I had to fill that time, right? Or coming up with show ideas, whatever it was. I felt like I wasn't, there was something missing, but there's been like a huge paradigm shift. And I will tell you, I have, and I know this doesn't jive with the YNAB right now, but it's a good thing for me because I've been able to go out to more dinners and meet with friends. And I've been able to give space to that, which I think is actually really important.
There's seasons of growth for like one thing where I did the same thing as well, where like my first year as I was making more money, I just like spent right along with it because I was like very excited about what I was gaining access to in terms of, like I said, like my own like money. I connected with time still at that point. I didn't have the same quite mastery of it. And I wasn't yet in a relationship with constraint, which now is a tool that like I think of as like almost fun. Because
Yeah.
I love to challenge myself in a way of like, ooh, where else can I get my dopamine hits from? First of all, it's crazy how many transformations you've had in just 6 months that like, of course there's more room
Wait,
for
can
growth.
we talk about my 30-pound weight loss? I literally also lost 30 pounds.
We haven't even talked about it.
No, it wasn't even something I talked about out loud, but through our work, through reprioritizing, I'm going to get really emotional. That also was the result of all of the work we've done the last 6 months, because when I came to you, I was completely depressed and anxiety ridden and just didn't really know how to get my life together. And so when we talk about like the baseline fundamentals that I was lacking, and I forgive myself for it because now I have those tools through the work. Really these last 6, really 8 months have just changed my life completely. Like I can see so clearly the person I am today. I'm so proud of. I forgive the person I was in the past. Starting this session, it was like, actually, no, I don't need to talk about anything. I just need to go through it and process it because I have the tools. I don't actually need to work through it with you. Like you've given me the tools to go out and handle my business like a boss.
So good. Oh my gosh. Well, it's just like my absolute pleasure to be along the ride and watch you change your own life. Like you said, like it's a beautiful thing, like you said, to forgive your past self that you were so like critical of your whole life and so harsh with, and now you can be compassionate and just so loving with her because honestly, she's the one that's done the hard work to make you the person that you are now that we're talking to right now. And I think that all the time, like I'm so grateful to my past self for like getting her shit together and like being brave enough to invest in myself in the ways that I've invested in myself, to do things that force me to feel more negative emotion, to feel that negative emotion in her body so that I can feel a lot lighter on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I always think about like, what is future me thanking me for working on right now?
Yeah.
And like, as like you had like all of these transformations, so much like I just found out that you lost 30 pounds, like fucking incredible. And like, you know, now we're discussing like, okay, what does it look like in the next year for your personal finance journey to feel really empowering? And what does that look like? And like the same way when you came to me the first session and you couldn't even really imagine what it would be like to think and feel in your body the way that you do right now. It's the same thing when you apply this work to money. It's like, you're like, who am I? That I just know exactly, that I think before I decide whether I'm going to spend, save, invest, have, or give, whether I'm willing to like have instead of trading it in, where it feels masterful instead of compulsive. There, like you said, there's a time and a place for that, because this whole last year, you were spending on things that you had been depriving yourself of for a long time in terms of like social engagements and some luxuries that you didn't even have the time or desire for when you are bogged down by depression and or overworking caused from perfectionism syndrome.
Exactly. So through all of this work, like, prioritizing my health, again, scheduled work around my life, which is going to sound crazy to a lot of people. It doesn't mean I'm being lazier. It doesn't mean I'm doing less of a job. I'm still actually kicking ass at my job.
We know and we understand that time does not equal efficiency, and time spent most likely from unclean thoughts is always going to cost you. It's going to take you 10 hours, what might take you 2 hours, when in between those 10 hours, you're trying to work on things that do not matter, or you're trying to control things that are outside of your control.
Exactly. The last thing I'll say is just your model is one of the most brilliant models. I share it with people because they wonder why I'm so calm in situations. And then I just go, hey, you should work with my business coach, because she has this model that I work through. And it has really taught me to understand what that result is, to back produce it, and to enjoy the journey, the process. That is something I wanted to reiterate. Like, what you've said to me has resonated, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of how we're getting to the result.
Yeah, so good. And I have to credit like the life coach school creator, Brooke Castillo. She created the model, and she gives us all permission to use it, like literally to change the way people think. Like, it is a revolutionary tool, and I'm so grateful for it in my own life. But the truth is, like you said, it takes so much practice to use that tool, because like you can have it, but unless you're like, because imagine I just gave you the model and then you just like had it and tried to do it on your own for like,
it doesn't work. Remember, I couldn't even get through the model. Like, you're like, what's the circumstance? I go, I don't know. This person did. You're like, that's not it.
We're not. You still think. I'd be like, okay, where would you think that this would go in the model? And you're like,
I'm like, well, I think I'm angry. You're like, no, that's a feeling.
So good. Well, this is just such a pleasure for me, this session. I really so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself too, immensely. And so it doesn't mean things are easy, but I'm so empowered by the tools that you've given me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Sincerely Future You. I hope that hearing Grace's story helps you remember that you are already enough. please take a moment after the show to go to your Apple Podcast app and leave a review. It helps more people like you find this show. And also, if you're listening to this and this is an episode that really spoke to you, tag me over on Instagram and I can share it with Grace. I know that it would mean the world to her, and I love to know which episodes you guys love so I can share more of them. Again, you can connect with me over on Instagram at Jess McKinley Wayno. That's JessMckinley, Wayno, Uyeno. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week. Hey, Hapsters. If you want to learn more about today's topic, head over to whatshappening.com/podcast. That's what's happening, whatshappening.com/podcast. If you're a business owner and you're resonating with what we talk about here, what are you even doing? Come hang out with me over where the party's at on Instagram at What's Happening WJess. Again, that's happy, HAPPYNING, and book a discovery call to see if coaching is your next best step.